College baseball season is here, and it's time to visit with the head coach of the Bobcats, Rob Smith. I'm Russ Eisenstein, the voice of the Bobcats. Year 5. Can you believe that it's year 5 already?
It's crazy. Time's flown by. It's been an amazing 4 years so far, and looking forward to the 5th.
Let's talk about the emotions. Obviously, 2 years ago and going to the NCAA tournament. Last year, missing out on the MAC tournament, and now going into this season. What's been the emotional ride for you and your program now from leaving Champaign to starting off this season?
Well, I think, obviously there was a lot of excitement coming off of 2015, and our club last year, depending upon what point of view you took, did some really good things. Yeah. Obviously, with the series win at Notre Dame and Purdue and a couple of other teams that we beat along the way were good, but we didn't handle our league play nearly as well. And obviously, when you go from winning the league to being the team that people are coming after, you got to handle that. We didn't do as good a job with that, but I think we learned a lot of valuable lessons, and our team this year is excited and ready to take on the challenge.
So have you seen then, obviously fans might want to know, is there a little different focus or maybe a different sort of energy from this offseason going into this season based on, not getting to where you wanted to get to last year?
I think it's a little bit more of a, we got to prove ourselves again, okay, type of thing. And so that's been kind of the mantra all year, that I think guys have worked and prepared with a chip on their shoulder. We've got tremendous senior leadership, and that's played a really big part, and I think in where we're at now, and certainly getting off to a good start this past weekend.
Yeah, at time of taping, the Bobcats are 3-1, heading back down to Georgia this weekend to take on SIU Edwardsville. There are lots of facets to a ball club, and you obviously have pitching as a background, so we'll start there first. Starting pitching, and then we'll talk about bullpen, but let's talk about the guys that are going to start it off for you.
Well, I think this is the best staff we've had in the 5 years that I've been here, collectively up and down from a depth standpoint. I feel very good about our 3 weekend starters that we've got projected, and our bullpen is very, very strong. We saw that this past weekend with what those guys did. So top to bottom, I like our staff as good as anyone that we've had from a pitching standpoint, and for me, like you said, that's kind of where it starts in terms of establishing an opportunity to be successful.
Got to have good defense behind that pitching staff, and Ohio has had good defense before. Where are you at on the field?
We're very good. That's one of our strongest elements is our defense. I mean, pitching and defense, when I first came here, the first interview you and I did, we had that discussion about trying to build this thing on pitching and defense. Yeah. And I think this is probably the closest that we've gotten to that in terms of having both ends of that ready to go. And then, offensively, we're going to have to just execute and do our game plan. But pitching and defense so far this year has been great.
Yeah, I remember that first interview, actually. It was a sunny day at Bob Wren. It was a beautiful day, and it was a great interview, too.
Absolutely. You were fantastic, Russ.
Well, yeah, I was. You've come a long way since then. Let's talk about at the plate. This is a ball club that could generate some power in real concentrated bursts last year, and that Notre Dame series was a big weekend offensively. But let's talk about where you're at and swinging the sticks.
Well, we came into this year knowing that we were going to have to be a little bit more systematic in our offense. Obviously, when you look at some of the players that we've lost over the last couple of years from an offensive perspective, we had to kind of retool our approach offensively. And so I'm very confident in the pieces that we have in place, but I don't know if we're going to, swing from the hip quite as much as we have the last couple of years. I think we're going to have to really be able to execute. Our guys need to understand those situations and then be able to put themselves into position to do that.
Let's go individually now. And first, we'll talk about leadership. Who are the guys that you're leaning on?
Well, when you look at some of our upperclassmen, obviously, in the middle infield, we got Ty Finkler and Ty Black. So those guys are sitting there in the middle of the infield. They've been around all 4 years with us, so we rely, quite a bit on them as well. Jerry Salisbury on the mound, he's our Friday guy. He's a redshirt junior, so he's been in the program now 4 years. And then guys like Tony Giannini, Rudy Rote, they've also played a big part for us in terms of just providing some leadership qualities. And then Nick Bredesen is another player that's been around. So those guys have taken it upon themselves to put a lot of effort into that. But that's not where it ends. I mean, we have some great seniors, beyond that are doing a tremendous job of providing leadership. So I think up and down we've got a great group of guys that are helping in all facets that way.
You mentioned Rudy Rote, and it seems like he's an upperclassman already. But of course, last year was his first year in your program. Can he be better than what he was last year?
Well, I think that's always the challenge, right? When a kid comes off a great freshman year, that you don't want them to over-press to think they have to do even more. I think if Rudy can just do what he did last year. Just, play hard, work hard, which he's always going to do that, and execute where he can. He'll be fine. So, he's a steady kid. He's a steady player. I think he'll be another great contributor for us.
Yeah, great mindset, great approach. All right, so some of the newcomers that Bobcat fans are going to get to know a little bit. Who do you expect some stuff from?
Well, there's some players, a kid that was on our team last year, obviously, that's gotten off to a great start, Michael Kline. Yeah. We had a hard time finding a specific role for him. He hit a little bit at the beginning, but then he didn't hit. He pitched a little bit towards the end, then he found his way into our rotation. And so far this year, he solidified himself as a weekend starter and our 4-hole hitter, and he proved this weekend why he was there. I mean, he really worked hard over the summer. He came in the fall with a little bit of a purpose, and in the way that he's worked and prepared, it's really proven to be good for him. So he's going to be a guy that I think people weren't aware of last year that they're going to know quite a bit about. And we are a veteran team. We just have a lot of guys that haven't been on the field as much. You look at Anthony Moroso behind the plate. He's a senior, but he was behind Cody Gardner last year. Connor Callery's starting at third base. He's been in the program 4 years, and this is his first chance to break through. Guy like Spencer Arbara's playing center field for us, and again, he was a part-time player last year. So we got a lot of guys that kind of have been with us, but they're sort of new to the scene in terms of being in as an everyday player.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Picked third, and that means that folks are expecting something out of you. They like the development that your program has made, and this is a big year for big strides.
I think it is. Again, I think a lot of it comes back to our ability to pitch on the mound, and we do have a lot of guys back from last year's pitching staff. Jerry Salisbury pitched exceptionally well. You talk about a newcomer. Butch Barrett is in our rotation now as our number 2 starter, and he did a tremendous job last weekend. And then we shifted a few roles around. We moved Jake Rudnicki into the bullpen, which I think is going to help us a lot. It's going to serve him well. He came out this weekend and really showed that I think this change in role is going to be a significant impact for him. So we're excited about it.
Well, thanks as always for the visit. We look forward to covering your ball club again this year. Good luck.
All right, thanks, Russ.
And of course, all games in the MAC, with the exception of the Buffalo series, will be on WOUBAM and OhioBobcats.com. I'll have the call for you, and hopefully a great year for Bobcat baseball. For the Bobcat TV crew and for head coach Rob Smith, I'm Russ Eisenstein. This is Bobcat TV.